Hey everyone, my name's AJ Akwadiete, but you can call me AJ for short.
And my name is Kristen Case.
And welcome to the PassionFruit Project, where we talk about living your passions,
bearing fruit,
and glorifying God. Oh man, it is currently 8:17 p.m. Kristen and I hopped on here. Well, we said we were going to hop on here at 7. We have spent the last hour troubleshooting. I've gotten kicked out of the meeting once or twice, but it's okay. We're all good.
I'm glad you're here.
Man, but we're back. We're back in the saddle. As a matter of fact, we're back for the last time this year.
It's the dream.
Kristen, how does it make you feel?
It's kind of crazy, and it's actually really kind of special. Like, I know it's the last per se episode, but just because where we kind of started from back in the end of June, just to see how really 2020 has really been unfolding, and just always remembering that, this year has really been a year of perseverance. Perseverance has been really the key also in the PassionFruit Project. So
that's right.
Kind of bittersweet. It's a mixed feelings right now. So
yeah. No, for surezies. And I feel like I'm really glad that we're ending the where we're ending and with who we're ending, because it's gonna be this is a good one. I personally think this. I mean, this is pretty much this guest was your idea, but I still think it was. I think it was an awesome idea. Well, you have lots of awesome ideas.
Oh, thank you. You do too.
We figured we wanted to give the people something good for the final episode of the podcast.
Yeah,
ladies,
for sure.
And gentlemen, in this corner, weighing in at 700 kangaroos, we've got the man. Whoa, nope, not the man. The woe man. The myth. The woe myth. As a matter of fact, she's not just the woe. She writes the woes. She hits the woes. She out here in the woes. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Isabella Breda in the building.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Hello. I feel like that was way too much hype for an intro for me, but hello, I'm here.
For those of you that don't know, Isabella is a writer, editor, journalist who has commented on some spicy issues this year of 2020, and really takes what she does very seriously in trying to give people truth, using the media, a very different medium than a lot of the guests that we've had on here. But I think that's really cool. I would describe what you do in one way, but Izzy, why don't you tell the people how you would describe what you do, and maybe even a little bit of why you do it?
Yeah, for sure. So I always try to really simplify this as I tell stories. That's what journalism is. Talking to people, hearing out their story or their side of a story, a broader subject, and putting it in writing in a way that anyone could understand. So maybe as a translator of stories, if you want to say it that way. For a long time, I've known that I wanted to be a journalist. I've always been the person who asks people way too many questions about their lives and what's going on, just because I've always loved connecting with people and hearing about their lives. Which I was saying before we started recording this, that I am so used to interviewing other people that when people ask me questions, I'm like, who, me, what? Because I like connecting with other people and finding out more about them. So that's yeah, that was my calling from a really young age.
Yes, ma'am. Man, I think that's absolutely cool. There might be, I'm going to listen back to the recording of this. There might be like a super slight echo, to which I'm going to apologize now. But definitely the paper at our school, the echo, the famous one, some might even say infamous, primary news source for California Lutheran University students. You were the editor, or are the editor in chief, and you were last year as well. I don't know, kind of talk about like what it's been like, you know, basically like leading a team of journalists and trying to, you know, like the things that go into that particular job, as you know, and maybe even, I'm sure you've heard all the jokes, all the flack that gets sent your way. Kind of like talk about how does like all that feel, you know, from the editor-in-chief perspective of a newspaper.
Yeah, so I guess basically we consider ourselves a paradox in a way, because our journalists are students, so they're learning, but we expect to be treated and operate as a professional news organization. So we'll take on really hard topics, and I push my reporters to get in on them, ask as many questions as they can, just as you would if you're reporting for like a normal newspaper, a website, whatever. And don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions. Don't be afraid to get in business you feel like you shouldn't be in, that sort of thing. With that comes a lot of, okay, so we have a reporter, they wrote a story, it goes to their section editor, they edit it, goes to the copy editor, they edit it, I take a look, final cut, whatever. Story comes out, we get an angry email. Oh, this story was so one-sided. For example, we had a story come out the beginning of this semester about these club posters that were sort of offensive, or people were saying they were offensive. So basically, because we're in a fully remote model, the only like method of communication was like social media. So we see like all these people saying, oh, this poster is awful, Cal Lutheran, how could you not take a look at this, whatever. And we're like, we should probably like see what the thinking was behind approving the poster on the school side, and also like why students are upset. So regardless of touching on both sides, obviously people are like, how dare you cover this at all? This is not a thing. These posters, this is gamer culture, because it was like the Smash Brothers club. And they were like, this is gamer lingo. How dare you even question that? And I'm just like,
how dare you?
And you say like the flack we get, it's that sort of thing. Like, oh, you guys like are taking stances on things you shouldn't. And it's like, well, we asked questions on both sides. We brought light to it because some people were taking issue with it, and we weren't just going to be like, no, those students don't matter who voiced their concern. So taking into account everything that's going on, that's always our job. And then the hardest part is, obviously we're college students, and so the reporters see this feedback and they instantly are like, I have to like go to bat for it. And I'm like, that's not our job. Our job is to go out there, report on the facts, put it up. And if like someone has an issue with the facts, saying like that's inaccurate or whatever, obviously we fix that. We have a correction section that I swear there's something new in it every week. It's like, this person's name was spelled wrong, or their title was wrong. Or for example, one person was like, this money was used to pay for someone's new position, and it was not. That was a fun one. It came out and we were all like, I didn't see that in copy editing. Did you ask? No? Okay, cool. So we just went with what the reporter said. So constantly learning. But basically, like, we don't respond to trolls. And that's the hardest part about our job, is people are constantly trolling, because actually that's like one of the things in our like our editorial handbook is like, don't respond to trolls, because there's this thing called media literacy. It's a beautiful thing. It's understanding that the news has to report on either side and can't take a stance. So then there's always going to be people saying, well, this is my opinion and how dare you didn't report it. I guess that's the hardest part by far, because it's like the reporting is the fun part. You get to go talk to people and learn these crazy things. And then when there's investigations, which we've done a few of this year, you go through and look at like transcripts from Zooms or listen to recordings taken at meetings that we weren't at, that we were given permission to, doing public records requests. Like we're doing that level of stuff in college, which is great, but you invest all that time and effort and then you still get hit with trolls and you're like, well, they just don't know. You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If someone was like with you in there, like in the room, and saw the amount of hours you put into all this stuff, it might change their tone a little bit when they come at you with the, you know, wow, this is a disgrace. How could you? I'm offended. Your certain things are going to be one-sided, because if there's one person writing it, you know, I mean, generally, you know, people do have sides, and that's totally like okay, you know, like no, there was no, and I mean, obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't think there's a rule out there that says, you know, journalists are not allowed to have opinions, you know?
So we have a thing where we check for each other's biases. So we do like implicit bias training. So we'll sort of like have a feeling of where people stand on certain things. Like, for example, the girl who covered the poster thing didn't find the poster offensive at all. So that was like our check. Like we have checks and balances in that way. We try to sort that out in the beginning. There's some things where we feel that as journalists, truth lies on one side. So good things lie on one side of an issue. And maybe we're willing to go to bat for that because it's an ethical issue. So like with racism that happened on campus, we're willing to go to bat and protect the faculty of color that were coming forward with their stories, because we felt that the ethical side would be to protect that side.
That's good. Wait, say that again. You said good things lie, like generally good things lie on one side of the story. So say it in your way, because you said it much better than I can repeat it.
Yeah, so like there's times we really try to be balanced. We're like, okay, people have opinions on either side. We're going to give it some attention, whatever. But when it comes to things like racism, which happened on our campus, we weren't going to give a bunch of airtime to the side that we felt was doing unethical things, or that maybe they had an opinion that was, there's no systemic racism on campus. We're not going to give that airtime because we don't feel that it's ethical.
So being a journalist with ethics, you know, I feel like in like the current world that we live in, it's probably a little bit difficult, because it seems like everyone kind of just wants to be fast and be right and be heard and stuff. But for you, like, how do you, in this world that we live in, like, how do you see like your faith, you know, like as a Christian, you know, as someone who loves Jesus, like how does your faith play into what you do as a journalist, or even like as a person trying to do something good on a college campus in general?
I mean, I would say for me, that's my guiding light in my reporting. So when I'm saying something is good or bad, it's like inherently good. To take that a little bit deeper, when I'm hearing people talk in a derogatory way about certain groups of people or things or people's opinions and their beliefs and their passion, again, that's something that I'm like, well, I don't need to carry that message, because there's a certain message that needs to be delivered. So it's more of a guiding factor in how I report, how I communicate with others, how I choose my sources even. There are times where I'm like, this person is maybe has really horrible intentions, but I should speak to them just to hear their side. So it's having that compassion that I carry with me to understand that everyone does have a story. I mean, I would say my faith comes in how I deal with reporters as well. So 2020 has been an especially challenging year. I had a reporter who lost a family member last semester. And we hadn't heard from her in weeks. And so obviously our job's like really fast paced and we're like, go, go, go. And we're like, where has this reporter been? Like, what's going on? We finally heard from her and we were able to just say like, listen, if you need anything at all, like we're here to provide for you. We want you to be safe. We want you to take something away from this class. But if you physically cannot, obviously, like, please rest, take care of yourself. We're here to pray over you. There's, I would say, 3/4 of our editorial staff is Christian. And that comes from being at a Lutheran school, but it's also like helpful in a profession like journalism where you feel that you need some sort of grounding, if that makes sense, like guiding principles. It's not like you're just going off and chasing these stories because you think it's going to get a lot of clicks. We're like, what is important for people to know? What can we bring to light that people will want to act on and make a difference?
I think like, I feel like with anything, especially like what you said, reporting, I feel like you guys are always so go, go, go. Like, let's get this right on the present. Like, let's get this at this moment. Cause I know it's so like, it's like grabbing attention. And so I think just like for you, just saying, like you said, being grounded, being still is like something you're probably like kind of learning maybe in a way during this time, maybe like unlearning it too in a way to try to figuring that out. So I thought that was really cool. Another question, well, I had a question about this and I was just kind of curious is how has it been during this time of COVID in particular with journalism and editing, especially, but how has it been for you in your writing of that?
Yeah. So again, when I was like, I come to sources with compassion, I come to these situations and that's at the forefront. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes compassion is very hard, especially when people are like, for example, we did this timeline on Cal Lutheran's history, and there were some things that weren't super pleasant that people had to sort of confront. And we got a lot of really, really horrible, awful feedback via email. Some of it was even questioning our character because they felt that they were being questioned. So for me, the hard part about the pandemic has been that level of separation between like face to face, because some people no longer want to be able to like say, hey, I want to talk about this article you guys wrote. They're like, let me send this horrible email that's going to make you cry for hours. Yeah. And I honestly prayed over that person because there was a lot of hate in that I know wasn't directed to us as student reporters. It was like something that person hadn't confronted in their own life, that they were like, I have an outlet now and you're my outlet. Other things have been going to like anti-mask rallies and you're the journalist wearing a mask because you care about the people that you're walking up to. And that changes the whole dynamic when you're the only person wearing a mask, you know, and they're citing Jesus as their savior and he's going to keep them safe from this virus. And I believe the same, but I'm wearing a mask because there's a chance that I could be carrying something that could affect them. And so it's just understanding that we see things differently, but we're all children of God. And so that's where I carry that compassion and extra in those situations where I'm really being tested, because it's like, you're the only person walking up in that situation. And the negative connotation of journalists under like Trump administration has been especially hard, because there's a lot of times where I've had to, before talking to someone, had to say like, hey, I don't care what you think, where you stand on this issue. Like, I'm here just to hear you out. I'll hear the other side too, but that's not going to affect how I perceive your side of the issue. Like, I just want to, like, if it's not true, like factually untrue, I'm not going to be like, oh, they said this, John said this, whatever. But for sure, I'm going to weigh it evenly because I care about their voice as well. And so, yeah, practicing compassion in a time where people are constantly trying you is hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I really like how you said that. Yeah.
You know, like, I remember at the beginning of the year, or at the end of last year, even people were like, 2020, it's going to be the year of vision. You know, we're gonna really see things in 2020, you know? But I feel like in 2020 we said it was gonna be the year of vision, but I feel like in a lot of ways it was a year of division, you know. And so like when you like, and I'm glad that you started going here so that we can then take this here. Like when it comes to politics, for example, it almost seems like there's a sense of it's, you know, there's the journalists and the media versus you know, traditional good old fashioned family values or things, you know, or and then those are all kind of like under, that's like the guise that people put it under when there's a lot of this like just political division and divisiveness and divisive words and just lots of things in that realm. Like obviously, like you have things you believe, you know, I have things I believe, Kristen has things she believes. Like we all have opinions on these different issues, but as a journalist, you, like, as you say, you try and report on both sides, but also acknowledge what's good and what is not good, like what's good for people and what's not good for people. How do you kind of navigate a realm where people are probably going to hear you say something like, I think masks are important, and then completely flip that and say, oh, so you think that churches and schools need to be shut down forever no matter what? You know, like how do you navigate a world of extremism while trying to deliver truth, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's connecting with people on a level that's not political. I have a few examples. So over the summer, I was doing research on like this algae bloom. And so I went out on this boat with like total strangers. And first thing they say when I walk on is like, we don't really trust the mainstream media. So like, what are you going to ask us? Like, what's this going to look like? And the thing is, as I mentioned way earlier with media literacy, it's becoming more of an issue now because people think that the media is, because of the extremism, on one side or the other, out to get someone, chasing down a story and not caring about people's feelings and pushing things that aren't true and all this stuff. And like the reality of it is we're all normal people too. We just were given a pen to tell stories and a microphone essentially. Either someone gave it to us or we just started doing it. I mean, there's citizen journalism even. But breaking it down and explaining like, hey, like I have my opinions too, but that's not my job. My job is to just give people the information they need to survive and to navigate this crazy divided world. And I could give a crap less who you're voting for. I just want to tell this story in a way that you think is fair. So establishing trust and connecting on a human level is like always a first step. Now, my other story, last week, I had an interview with a guy who like refused to put his mask on. I was like, you know what? It's fine. We're outside. I'm wearing mine. I'm gonna stay away from you, but I respect that you don't feel comfortable with it on. That's fine. He's like, you're probably the first person to tell me that. And I'm thinking in my head, like, obviously there's a mandate. So he's being asked to put it on everywhere he goes. And so for me being like, we're outside, you're over there, I'm doing my thing, I just want to talk to you, I could care less, was like enough for him to be like, hey, like maybe the media is okay. Maybe they are like normal people. It's that human level connection that for some reason, when you throw us all into this media blob, it's like, this is your identity now. You're the media. You're not a person. That's where people can get so crazy and awful and say these horrible things because they're not thinking about like a person. They're like, nah, you're the media. So yeah. And then again with him, he was asking like, at the end of our interview, we wrapped things up and he's like, you know, I don't know anyone who's had COVID. And so I'm like, oh, okay. You know, we live in a rural area, whatever. I've been touched by it this whole year. Like I said, I had a reporter who lost a family member. I lost a family member, wasn't able to see them because it was like early on and the hospitals are locked down. I had my roommate who got super, super sick. Like she used to run every day and she's super young and then got super sick with COVID, which they say like it doesn't affect young people. And like establishing that human level, like, hey, this has affected me. And that's also partially why I choose to wear a mask. And that's fine. And that's fine that you don't choose to. Like, whatever. As long as you feel that you're keeping your loved ones safe, fine. So it just all boils down to like everyone believes certain things because of their experiences, and taking the time to understand that and break through that and establish that the media is just here to tell a story, and we're not trying to hurt anyone. We're not trying to step on anyone's toes. We're not trying to suppress anyone's views. We're just given facts from all angles. We have to try to piece it together in a way that makes sense. And sometimes it's not going to please everyone. Honestly, I don't think there's any article ever that makes everyone happy, but hopefully they get something new or interesting or informative out of it.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's why I'm glad that Kristen wanted us to interview you, because I feel like journalism is a form of art, you know, and we've of course had dancers, you know, and TikTokers and producers and musicians and stuff on here, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to tell stories and trying to do something meaningful. Your method just looks, it just happens to be in prose, you know? Like we can obviously talk about the philosophies and ideas behind journalism all day, but practically, like if somebody wants to get into journalism, what does that kind of look like? Is there really a pathway? You know, obviously, you know, someone could, you know, start their own website or something and, you know, post their blogs or things. But like, what does it kind of look like to become a journalist? Let's say for someone who's watching at home, who's like, you know, like I want to report stories and I want to tell things from my perspective, you know, and I want to break down these ideas. Yeah. Like what do you kind of say to them of what it would kind of look like to become, I don't exactly know if there's like famous journalists, you know, or like a Gary Webb kind of person or things like that. Like what's the pathway look like?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're going into. But I would say, like, if you're going to college, your student newspaper is a great place to practice because it's very real, because you'll get the experience of negative feedback even after you felt you did a great job. You'll get those interviews that are just great, where you really connect with someone, you write a great profile. You'll get those really hard interviews where people don't want to tell you anything because it's administrative and you're too young to know about this. You shouldn't know. You'll get those experiences that will prepare you for the field. If not, if you're in high school, I would recommend, like, I know there are some high schools that have their publications. Mine did not. Literally just in whatever work you do, like I was a waitress. I would spend so much time connecting with my customers, even on busy nights, just knowing like how to be able to get to know someone and make them feel comfortable in your presence. Like that's so important in journalism. I can't harp on that enough. Is just being able to like connect with people, which we think is easy. Like, hey, you see a stranger, you're going to talk to them, whatever, but being able to make them feel comfortable and want to tell you something that they wouldn't tell everyone. So developing just like people skills, I guess. Writing. The biggest thing that I see with reporters coming in is that they want to write in this fancy prose like you would in English class. And the reality of it is journalism, you're supposed to write for like an 8th grader could fully understand what you're writing. But at the same time, some expert in that field would not be bored. So we talk about like the breakfast test, which is, there's a few interpretations of this. So your writing should be like interesting in a way that it's not going to make someone fall asleep like into their cereal bowl. And it's also not going to make them throw up their breakfast because it's so graphic. And so honing in your writing skills to be able to like be so concise. And sometimes it looks like this happened on this day at this time. Just being able to write so concisely, that's essential. So it's connecting with people, writing really tightly, build it if you want to, like, so I've had now 5 internships. I might be wrong because I'm counting one that I've come back to. Make connections where you've worked. And if you haven't worked anywhere, in journalism, cold calling is super helpful. Kalu is great because in our comm internship class, they're like, one of your assignments is to cold call someone in a job you would love to have. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like Leslie Clark, she works for McClatchy, like she's a political correspondent. And I called her and she answered. I was like, because journalists, like they're so busy, but they will answer every call because they're always waiting for a source to call them. And so if there's a young journalist that calls them, they're like, oh my gosh, like, who are you? What do you need to know? And they'll tell you everything about like the industry. Make connections that way. Like, I swear it works. I got one of my internships by literally, I was like, this would be a dream, like USA Today. There's no way. I literally just emailed them, said, hi, like I'm whatever year. I'd love to work for you. Like, I can send you writing samples, whatever. And like, some of you writing samples, and then they sent me the link to the application when it came up. And like, I did it and I ended up getting it. And I was like, never would have thought that would happen. So with journalism, it's like, throw yourself right into the shark's mouth because it's both really competitive and there's always a demand for people who can tell stories well. So don't be afraid to start. That's my best advice. Oh, learn to take photos and make videos and do everything. That's another thing, but that's way further down the road if you want to get into it. That was a lot, but
I love the breakfast bowl thing. That just you said you went in into the out. So that caught my attention, man. If you guys y'all write like that, I'll pay attention. So actually you kind of said a little bit into what I was gonna sort of ask, but I guess like I wanted to ask like, what would you tell your younger self today? Any advice you would give yourself and your passions? Because I know you've probably had triumphs, you've probably had tribulations, you know, when you're young and you're seeing, like you said, you're cold calling to your internships, just kind of, yeah. What advice would you give yourself?
So when I was saying like, throw yourself into the shark's mouth, I didn't really figure that out until probably 2020, because I was always like, I could never get this. I could never do that. And I'm like praying that I'm just going to get some opportunity at all. Like as if it's just going to appear. And because I was afraid to suggest that I'm qualified to do something. But if you literally just connect and say like, hey, I'm willing to do this. Like at one point I offered to do a free internship while I was doing a different paid job. And then they ended up saying, no, we can pay you. And so taking risks, taking a leap of faith is so important in this industry. Yeah, so if I could tell my younger self anything, it'd be like, put your foot out there, put your toes in the water, see how it's going, and then just dive in, because people are always like eager and willing to train people who want to be journalists. Yeah, and I'm happy that I found this industry, or maybe that this industry found me, because I honestly was like, I know I love writing and I know I love talking to people, but for the longest time I was like, I have no clue what I want to do. Maybe I want to be a psychologist, maybe whatever. And then I just like had this epiphany that, hey, I could just interview people and write, and that's journalism. Yeah.
Hey, that's right. Man, I'm so glad that we did this. You know, I think that people getting to hear like your inside scoop, you know, is definitely gonna help with just like more humanizing this idea of journalism. You know, I really hope that we can get back to looking at all people as image bearers, no matter what their profession is, and, you know, just saying, hey, like this isn't, you know, a real human being with some real experiences and some real, dare I say it, wisdom. Well, Kristen, I think it's that time. It's that time.
You
know
Yeah.
what time it is. Izzy doesn't know what time it is. Miss Isabella Breda, the lady with the singular braid. We have the lightning round. Lightning sound effects. All right. These are some of the hardest questions that have ever been asked of any individual this side of Kentucky. I don't know whether or not you're physically prepared for this, but you're here anyway, so you're basically going to have to be prepared for it. Does this make sense?
Sure.
All right. We're going to... oh, sorry. Your goal is to answer these questions as fast as possible, all right? Ready? There's going to be 7 of them, I think. Yeah, 7. The time that you're trying to beat is Nelica with 23.46 seconds. Are you prepared for this?
Wait, for each question or for all of them?
All of them all together.
All of them.
23.46 seconds. All right. And we're starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
In chocolate chip.
Favorite movie?
God, I don't even know.
Favorite fast food? Favorite fast food? Favorite fast food?
Oh, Taco Bell.
What's your spirit animal?
A kangaroo.
Ever broken a bone?
Yes.
Any plans for world domination?
No.
Would you rather have hands for feet or feet for hands?
Feet for hands.
Wait, feet for hands? Really? Huh. Okay. I forgot what I said I would answer last time, but I feel like hands for feet.
Handstands all the time, and you could pick up stuff.
Oh, yeah, good point. Handstands. Okay. The time that you were trying to beat was 23.46 seconds. Your time was 34.2 seconds. You'll get him next time, champ. All right. See,
I really could not think of a movie.
No, don't worry. It was good. I thought that was funny. Are you not really a big movie person?
I am, but I just like blanked for so long, and then I thought of like Silence of the Lambs. I'm like, that's not my favorite movie. That's my favorite scary movie.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one though.
Yeah, I've actually had a craving to go listen to The Notebook. I mean, watch those were all different descriptions of things. I had a craving to listen to The Notebook. I've wanted to watch The Notebook again recently. So who knows? Maybe that'll become my favorite movie. But anyway, thank you so much for being on the show, Izzy, for chatting with Kristen and I about all things journalism. Who knows? Kristen, maybe we need to bring Izzy back in season 2 to talk more about politics. What do you think?
I think we should. Yeah, I would love that.
And who knows? Maybe we'll get a bunch of people together maybe we'll have a whole politics panel in 2021. So it's like a moderately less heated, or who knows? Politics always gets a little heated, but it'll be pretty exciting. Where can people follow you and keep up with your stuff, Isabella?
I'm at Breda Isabella on Twitter. And if you're having trouble spelling my last name, it's bread, but the A is at the end.
There you go. Ooh. And then she also has an Instagram, where the rumor has it that we're still working out the kinks of the username, right?
Yeah, but right now it's @_ Bella Breda.
There you go. So hey, stay connected and whatnot. Thank you everyone for watching. My name's AJ Akpodiete, but you can call me AJ for short.
And my name is Christine Case.
And thank you so much for watching the PassionFruit Project, where we talk about living your passions,
bearing fruit,
and glorifying God.